I'll now call the Standing Committee meeting of May 6, 2024 to order. We welcome a number of people into the boardroom for our public meetings and expect everyone in attendance to conduct themselves in accordance with our policies and procedures and the Code of Conduct for public participation in meetings, and they can be found on the DDSB website. The Durham District School Board acknowledges that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships, both historic and modern, with the territories upon which our school board and schools are located. Today, this area is home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We acknowledge that the Durham region forms part of the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, the Mississauga peoples, and the treaty territory of the Chippewa of Georgina Island First Nation. It is on these ancestral and treaty lands that we teach, learn, and live. I'll now ask if there are any declarations of interest. Seeing none, there are no declarations of interest at this time. I'd like to have a mover to approve the agenda. Trustee Edwards. Seconder, Trustee Brown. All those in favor? That's carried. So this evening we have two presentations, and the first one I'm going to turn over to Superintendent Heather Mundy and Superintendent Andrea McCauley for the first presentation.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. We're pleased to present the annual update on the DDSB multi-year accessibility plan. The report can be found on pages 1 to 13 in your agenda package. Tonight we have two presenters here, so pleased to have Senior Manager of People and Culture, Lisa Coppins, and System Lead for Inclusive Student Services, Michelle Crawford-Eade, and I will turn it over to them.
Lisa and I are here this evening as co-chairs of the DDSB Accessibility Advisory Working Group. The working group was directly involved in developing the DDSB multi-year accessibility plan, and we are bringing forward an annual update, the first update since the implementation of the current plan. The annual update, noted as 2023, highlights the work that has been done thus far in relation to the multi-year plan. The update report is organized under the 5 Accessibility for Ontarios with Disability Act standards, along with Universal Design for Learning. You will see in the report updates on the various goals outlined in the multi-year accessibility plan.
This evening, to bring you highlights of the progress we have made as a district, we've created a video which highlights some of these goals as we work towards creating barrier-free workplaces and classrooms. In this video, you will see examples of physical spaces. You will hear about training that has been delivered to staff around accessible documents and websites. And this training received recognition through the Ability Center and was a finalist in the category for accessible employers in their recent awards night. And in this video, you will also see examples of students learning about accessibility through the use of technology. We also partnered with an organization called Assign to provide ASL translation for our video. The idea for the ASL translation came from one of our colleagues, which speaks to the progress we are making as an organization, where accessibility is top of mind in all that we do. In partnering with Assign and through feedback from teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing, we were encouraged to utilize a member of the deaf community for the translation to honor this community's first language, and we are pleased that Assign was able to provide this. I'll ask the team to start the video. The DDSB multi-year accessibility plan outlines actions we are taking to meet our responsibilities under the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act and aligns with the Ontario Human Rights Code. Our plan highlights our commitment to providing services, employment and learning and working environments that center Indigenous rights, human rights and equity, and that are welcoming, respectful, safe, inclusive, equitable, accessible, and free from all forms of discrimination.
This work is ongoing, and we continue to identify ways to address ableism and improve accessibility within our schools and workplaces. Centering accessibility and inclusion supports meaningful participation and prevents barriers to education and employment based upon ability, disability, and neurodiversity. It also fosters a culture of care where students, staff, and community members can thrive.
Working with partners like the Ability Center, we've been training and supporting staff on using accessible and inclusive formats when sharing communication and information, such as presentations, documents, social media content, and emails. Education Center staff recently participated in a 3-session Train the Trainer series.
The use of Braille signage throughout a school is an example of removing barriers to communication. This helps students, staff, and visitors navigate the building more independently and with dignity.
We are continuously improving on how we design and upgrade our physical spaces to address accessibility barriers. Here at Uxbridge Public School, an outdoor classroom has been designed to be accessible and inclusive for students, staff, and community members.
The staff at the Maintenance Center work closely with schools, inclusive student services to design, build, and install accessible resources for students.
Through Universal Design for Learning, we center all students. We design learning goals, resources, and activities to meet students' diverse strengths, interests, and needs, and to address barriers to learning.
DDSB classrooms are set up to provide all students with a variety of options to engage in and support their connections and learning.
Students are experiencing universal design for learning as they create accessibility solutions using a 3D printer to allow their classmates to fully participate in games and school activities.
Across the DDSB, we all have the responsibilities to promote accessibility and to actively dismantle and disrupt ableism. We will continue to remove barriers and work towards providing inclusive and accessible learning and working environments.
We have a shared responsibility to work towards barrier-free accessibility. The work is ongoing, and we look forward to bringing future updates to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from trustees? Trustee Edwards?
Thank you, and I appreciate the work on the accessibility plan, and I really appreciate the video because that really highlights what is being done in the school around accessibility compared to a dry report that is provided. That really gives the great examples of what's happening in our schools around accessibility, so I really appreciate the video and the fact that it is, ASL is included in there from that perspective. And so, because that was my comment when I was looking through this report, I couldn't really find, other than one statistic, how we actually determined that we were advancing ahead in our accessibility. So how do we actually show the public and our students that we are doing it? Without that video, the report itself, because I was looking at how do we measure the success, how do we know? And I said there was one example around employment and sort of thing, and sort of the metrics and how we're going forward. So I really appreciate the video, but some of those information that, like, I could ask, you know, how do we know how many of our schools, all the signs have been changed? Because I know not all the signs have, but so where are we in that process? And then the second thing I just want to make quite clear, I appreciate with facilities and incorporating accessibility design into our facilities, and especially when much of it is not necessarily included in the funding we receive in the capital funding that we receive from the provincial government. It's basically initiative and things that our school, our staff, our board does for our students to make it accessible. So thank you for all what you do.
Seeing no other questions, thank you so much for the presentation. And now I'll ask Superintendent Margaret Lazarus to proceed to introduce the next presentation.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Oldfield. The report supporting 2SL LGBTQIA+ identities can be found on pages 14 to 18 of your agenda package. As schools are engaging in initiatives and activities to affirm and honor 2SLGBTQIA+ identities, this report highlights the work being done across the district and in departments to identify, address, and dismantle oppressive practices. Policies and procedures are put in place to ground the work that is being done. Professional learning ensures that we are equipping staff with the knowledge and the skills to address issues of connectedness, well-being, and achievement. The presentation this evening will give highlights of our work. Please join me in welcoming Craig Bonikowski, he, him, elementary principal, Stephanie Jerva, she, her, elementary teacher, James Kladnicki, he, him, secondary principal, Christine Mackey, she, her, elementary principal, Sean McCormack, he, him, system lead anti-oppression, Tara Sari, secondary teacher, she, her, and Kogu Yasudaran, she, her, facilitator anti-oppression. So thank you.
Our commitment to anti-oppression is inclusive of the 2S LGBTQIA+ identity and aligns with our DDSB multi-year strategic plan. The DDSB strives to create learning environments where the 2S LGBTQIA+ students and staff and families will flourish through meaningful learning, connected communities, and personal well-being. We are committed to dismantling homophobia, transphobia, biphobia, and other forms of oppression to ensure that all students and staff feel welcome and safe. This report will demonstrate the positive impact we have when we intentionally create meaningful learning opportunities that represent, affirm, and celebrate identities and foster meaningful connections between students, staff, caregivers, and community, ultimately creating safe spaces where students and staff can live being their authentic selves, being treated with dignity and respect from all.
The DDSB's multi-year strategic plan provides us with the guiding principles to ground the why we are doing this. In order to know each other, we must be intentional with our actions to ensure this happens. As a system, we have a duty to honor the rights of our students by using our policies, procedures, and any data we collected to create and maintain welcoming, accessible, inclusive, and equitable learning environments, classrooms, schools, and displays that reflect diverse identities and address barriers and do not create or reinforce inequities. We also do this by treating all students with dignity and respect, and we allow all students to have a say and input in their learning and decisions that impact them.
In order to address discrimination and harm that 2S LGBTQIA+ students and staff experience, multiple pathways were facilitated to increase an understanding of the intersectional identities and lived realities of the community. The objective was to activate an understanding of proactive actions to promote, protect, and uphold human rights, and to identify, prevent, and address all forms of discrimination, including homophobia, biphobia, and transphobia. Classroom teaching and learning resources to support this are housed in the DDSB's anti-oppression Spark page, the bi-weekly memo. Resources included lessons, texts, and a wide range of supportive educators to foster a more inclusive learning environment. Queer and gender studies courses are offered at the secondary level to support learning and knowledge building in this area. Administrators in elementary and secondary had workshops in the fall by Dr. Carlene Petalman-Jimenez and Injiri Damali Sojourner Campbell addressing issues related to gender identity and expression, equipping staff with tools and strategies to respond to complaints of discrimination or harassment. Work was also done ensuring that everyone feels valued and included in their school community.
DDSB currently has gender and sexuality alliance spaces in all 19 secondary schools and 60 elementary spaces, with numbers continuing to grow. They are spaces for discussions, community building, or even just a place for students to connect in comfort knowing a GSA facilitator is there to support. They center student voice and promote self-love, foster allyship, and provide resources and support for students and staff. These opportunities are not always restricted to one day a week at a club space, but are accessible every day through GSA staff facilitators and events run throughout the year. With a GSA present, 2S LGBTQIA+ students always have someone to turn to. To celebrate and support these spaces, DDSB has listened to the student voice in planning the annual GSA conference. This year, Get Real Movement will empower students as the keynote speaker. Then, community organizations will create positive and affirming spaces that celebrate each unique identity. These spaces also aim to provide meaningful learning opportunities for GSA students and their facilitators, who will be equipped with the supports to promote identity-affirming experiences throughout the school year. Together with Durham Community Partnerships, DDSB will create an experience that centers joy, empowerment, and pride.
The DDSB has expanded its partnership to include well over 16 community organizations to create 2S LGBTQIA+ identity-affirming opportunities for students and staff across the Durham region. Community partnerships are the mainstay of DDSB's transformative progress in supporting and uplifting equity-seeking communities across the Durham region. Because of the relationship with strong advocates, students can engage in identity-affirming experiences in the Durham region, like Pride Day events, Pride Prom, Pride Youth Day, GSA Conference, and a wide range of recognition days. With collective strength and action, the DDSB is striving to amplify positive spaces for everyone. Examples of community connections this year are including, but not limited to, PFLAG, Durham CHC, DAO, ACDR, Durham CAS, the Durham Region Libraries, Durham Pride, the Durham Region Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Department, Durham Pride Prom, the DRPS, and North Durham Pride.
The Visible Everyday Committee was started in March of 2021 with the goal of providing the best possible supports for students, staff, and families who identify as part of the 2S LGBTQI+ community through actions which support the efforts of the DDSB and the Anti-Oppression Department. It should be mentioned that Visible Everyday is not an affinity network, even with our team being members, allies, and advocates of the 2S LGBTQI+ community, as our focus is on actions and our identities are unique and not necessarily shared. In its very first few months, the Visible Everyday Committee developed a plan of action to celebrate and support those who identify as part of the community within the DDSB. The Visible Everyday Committee gathered input and data from 3 main stakeholder groups: from students, from staff, and families. These voices, along with the voices of community partners who have historically supported the queer and transgender communities, served to craft a list of recommendations intended to help inform the work of system leaders and ensure that DDSB continues to grow as an organization that is safe, supportive, and embraces the lived reality of all folks. In January of 2022, a list of 30+ recommendations were presented to senior administration, with several of those recommendations being immediately turned into actions. Visible Everyday is currently working as a writing team to take the recommendations and create a compendium of action to support 2S LGBTQIA+ students, staff, and community success. We are planning to have this document completed this spring and launched on November 20th of 2024, the Transgender Day of Remembrance. Inclusive to this document will be professional development presentations for staff and community members, including revisions of past presentations. What is the impact of this work? Overall, the DDSB recognizes that faced with the reality and lived experiences of many members of our school communities, we must address the harm being done to 2S LGBTQI+ individuals. As a district, we must actively challenge the anti-2S LGBTQIA+ oppression and erasure, wherever and whenever possible, so that each student can be safely visible every day.
In the DDSB, our 2S LGBTQIA+ students, staff, and community members deserve and are entitled to an atmosphere of safety and acceptance. Our comprehensive commitments to action will help to build knowledge, address harm, and create schools where everyone feels included. Through visible action, our students, staff, and community can feel visible every day.
As staff today, we affirm our commitment to ensuring success for all students by upholding Indigenous rights and human rights to support achievement and well-being for our staff and students. This ends our presentation, so we're open for questions.
Any questions from trustees? Trustee Morton?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I don't have a question, I just have a comment. I want to say thank you. We are moving in the right direction. We are addressing the needs of all, and I greatly appreciate the effort of everybody tonight. That was an amazing presentation. This word needs to get out. Thank you.
Okay, you're coming up as Ben, but I know you're not Ben, so what you can...
Thank you, and through you, Chair. So first, I do want to say thank you for all of the work that you're doing and for this amazing report. Reading through all of it and hearing your voices is so important, and hearing about all of the work that's being done for 2S LGBTQIA+ students is very important, and I'm so glad that you're here and sharing this information today. I also do want to point out that including elementary school students in the GSA conference is very important, and I'm really glad that you've taken initiative and gone a step beyond to include more than just secondary school students. And also the professional development workshops for staff are life-changing, and you're truly having an impact on students. So thank you very much.
Trustee Miller?
Thank you for your wonderful presentation. Obviously, this is a tremendous work undertaken, and I am happy to see so much of the community support that speaks volumes to the work and the support you have received. I'm just wondering about how students can become enrolled in some of the programs that are offered.
Yeah, it's still ongoing in terms of how we can best support students. I think ultimately we talked a lot about safety as a district, providing a safe space for students. So that can be a barrier sometimes, but we strategically brainstorm and work around ways. For example, our elementary GSA conference, we're offering both synchronous and asynchronous options so that students can participate in the safety at school with a safe adult. So we'll continue to work together collaboratively with our community partners and the Visible Everyday team to find more accessible and safe ways for students to participate.
Seeing no further questions, thank you so much for the presentation. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the director's update, and I'll turn it over to Director Camille Williams-Taylor.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Firstly, yesterday, May 5th, was known across Canada as Red Dress Day, National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and Two-Spirit people. Red Dress Day is meant to remind us of these members of our communities who were taken and lost too soon. It also reinforces the need to stand with Indigenous communities in delivering actions that make change. Friday, May 17th, is the International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia. The day aims to raise awareness of the 2S LGBTQIA+ rights violations and the work needed to combat the ongoing violence and hate perpetuated against those with diverse sexual orientations, gender identities, gender expressions, and sex characteristics. The theme for this year's international celebration is No One Left Behind: Equality, Freedom, and Justice for All. Staff across the district are being encouraged to take time to reflect on the theme and to resolve how each individual can affirm the dignity and care of those within the 2S LGBTQIA+ communities and identities. Gay-straight alliances in our schools will also be involved with student-initiated projects to mark the importance of the event. All DDSB sites will raise the Progress Pride flag on May 17th and will keep it raised throughout the month of June to acknowledge that June is Pride Month. On April 23rd and 30th, along with trustees and members of the senior team, it was my distinct pleasure to attend the CIFER Black Male Empowerment Conference and Empower Her student conferences. This year, CIFER provided Black male students in grades 7 to 10 an opportunity to connect and network with peers, community organizations, an incredible cross-section of Black male role models, with the goal of empowering students with the key message that they are powerful beyond measure. In its third year in 2024, Empower Her brought together Black female students in grades 6 to 8 for a day of elevation, inspiration, and amplification of the voices of future leaders, where students engaged with influential Black female leaders. I sincerely thank, on behalf of the senior team, all the staff who helped with the planning and the execution of these meaningful events. The feedback so far has been amazing. On April 26th, the Ministry of Education announced $745 million province-wide increase in core education funding, formerly known as the GSNs, for the coming school year. It is intended to support improved student experiences and outcomes across the province. On April 28th, the ministry also announced new steps being taken for the coming school year related to reducing the impact of cell phone and social media distractions in the classroom. The letter to families and parents from the Minister of Education has been posted on our website. On May 1st, the ministry announced the launch of the new accelerated stream of the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program called Focused Apprenticeship Skills Training. The new program will be known as OYAP FAST and will begin in the 25-26 school year for students in grade 11 and 12 in all 144 recognized trades in the province. For information about these announcements and their impact across the DDSB, that information will continue to be shared as it becomes available and posted through a variety of vehicles. Each year, schools across Ontario mark the first full week in May as Children's Mental Health Week. This important week is about increasing awareness of child and youth mental health, decreasing stigma, and helping all students understand the supports that are available. Children Mental Health Week is also an opportunity for us to acknowledge and reinforce the efforts underway at our schools that enhance well-being and promote positive mental health. Tomorrow, the Student Senate and Inclusive Student Services Department will host the Creating Harmony, Uniting to Promote Our Mental Health and Well-Being Conference for secondary school students in the Durham District School Board. Topics include navigating stress, relationships, and mental health supports. Starting today through Friday, school districts across the province are recognizing Education Week. At DDSB, we're committed to showcasing student achievements through a variety of events and activities aimed at celebrating student success and fostering a culture of lifelong learning, including encouraging educators to incorporate themed lesson plans and activities into their classroom instruction. Education Week serves as a platform to instill a passion for learning and empower students to succeed in school and beyond. Thank you, Chair, and that concludes my remarks.
Thank you. Any questions for the director? Seeing none. Moving on to recommended actions, and we only have one action this evening. Could I please have a mover to approve the draft minutes of April 2nd, 2024 Standing Committee meeting? Trustee Morton, seconded. Trustee Brown. All those in favor? That's carried. Moving on to information items. First one is student trustee report, and I'll pass over to the student trustee Hoare. If I can get the buttons to work. There we go.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. To start off, Neha and I had the privilege of visiting O'Neill CVI, Henry Street, and Sinclair Secondary Schools on April 29th. During our visit, we actively participated in student council meetings, engaged in empowering discussions with students and staff, and gained valuable insights into each of their unique school climates. Additionally, Ben visited Ajax High School on the 29th, where he had a wonderful experience and also got to attend their student council meeting. Today, Neha and I continued our school visits by going to Pickering and Maxwell Heights Secondary School. Once again, we had a fantastic experience and are eager to bring back the knowledge and the ideas we gathered to our student senators.
For the past month, our senators have been working hard on our new initiative, Operation Opportunities, a database of volunteer extracurriculars, scholarships, jobs, clubs, co-ops, and so many more geared to helping students discover their passions and build a prosperous future. We are hoping to publish Operation Opportunities on the DDSB website before the end of the school year. Stay updated by following our Student Senate Instagram page at DDSB Student Senate for upcoming posts regarding this initiative. On another note, I'm thrilled to announce our partnership with O'Neill CVI for their upcoming menstrual equity drive taking place from May 13th to 17th. We will be actively assisting them in their promotion and donation efforts. Donations from anyone interested are highly encouraged and appreciated. For further information, please reach out to myself or Kayla via email, which can be found on the board website. As the director mentioned, tomorrow the Student Senate is hosting a mental health conference at the board office. Students and volunteers from secondary schools will participate in workshops discussing mental health resources and enjoy some time with some therapy dogs.
The Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion group within the Senate has developed a student resource board that will be put up in every secondary school within the DDSB. This resource board will provide students with valuable information on various topics such as volunteering opportunities, financial support, mental health services, and so much more. Keep an eye out for it in your respective schools. Furthermore, senator elections are currently taking place in most secondary schools. Students have the opportunity to elect up to 3 senators for their upcoming academic school year. We are incredibly proud of the progress the Student Senate has made so far, and we are excited to report back on the upcoming events that they have planned. Thank you, and this concludes our report.
Thank you. Any questions? Trustee Morton? Sorry, it transferred Trustee Edwards first, so she's going to go first.
It's just a comment, and hearing that you're putting together basically a resource, a database of all scholarships and resources is great. I don't know if this is filtered down through Ostiago, but there is a new scholarship opportunity offered by OPSPA, and it's through a funding partnership with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, and basically the requirements are talking about, commitment to civic engagement and the importance of local government, diversity of leadership and perspective, and community involvement. So, and again, I think it's only for a few years that they will continue, but it sort of replaced the PPAN, because I know I still get requests around the PPAN one that used to be offered by OPSPA, and that one no longer exists. But this one is a replacement. It just came out. It's a little late, but hopefully it gets circulated for students to apply. Thank you.
Trustee Morton.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I would like to commend our 3 student trustees for visiting secondary schools in all 7 of our municipalities. That's greatly appreciated. I also want to wish you well, wish you much success in this very special event tomorrow. I know that that is a very, very important event to host here. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, we'll move on to the OPSPA report, and the update is with Trustee Edwards and Trustee Miller. Who's going first? Trustee Edwards.
Thank you. As far as the OPSPA Board of Directors meeting was held on April 26th and 27th in Toronto. A summary of the Board of Directors meeting can be found on pages 20 through to 25, I believe, in your report, in your package. We did have a presentation, just a note, a great presentation from the Ontario Student Trustees Association, or OSTAAGO, and for those that know know, it's all trustee associations that include public, Catholic, French public, and French Catholic. And they presented a structure, outline of their structure and supports they provide for students, trustees while attending events, which was kind of a key factor, although we know the Durham District School Board does provide the opportunity for our trustees to attend Oswego events. Not all boards do that. And it was around concerns about what kind of supports that are provided. So they outlined that as well for our trustees. So hopefully we will increase the membership at Oswego because they provide such great input and resources to the trustee associations. As I said, there's various other highlights that are there. A big key is, as Director mentioned, around education funding being presented. And the other thing is more around labor, policy recommendations and resolutions that have come forward from the various member boards, as well as our own that we had provided to OPSBO around OPSBO taking a leadership role in addressing accessibility barriers in education. At the Board of Directors meeting, input was provided to our board, or all the member boards that provided resolutions for input, and this will be further discussed, have the opportunity to discuss at the next board meeting. And that's my report.
Trustee Miller?
Thank you, Chair. On April 25th and April 26th, Ontario Public School Board Association held their annual Education, Labor Relations, and Human Resources Symposium at the Sheraton Centre Toronto Hotel. The symposium featured informative keynote speakers, panels, and workshops on artificial intelligence and employment law, employment equity audits, hiring processes and the candidate experience, making the most of conciliation, mediation, workplace investigations and safe schools, do's and don'ts of social media in the workplace, and ransomware attacks on school boards. It was an eventful day with great presentations and workshops to attend. There was also a chance to collaborate and to make connections with other trustees of different boards. Also, there's a reminder that in the upcoming week, May 21st to 24th, is Take Your MPP to School Week. Member boards are encouraged to connect with their MPP's constituency offices to arrange plans for this week if you have not already done so. And that's all for the report. Thank you.
Any questions from trustees on the report? Seeing none. The last item on the agenda is correspondence, and at page 26, there's a letter from Chair Thatcher to the Minister of Education. Any questions on the correspondence? Seeing none. And just before we adjourn, I just want to remind people that following this meeting, there's a special board meeting. After probably about a 5-minute recess, we will begin that meeting. And this meeting is adjourned.
Good evening and welcome to the Durham District School Board Special Board Meeting of Monday, May the 5th, 2024. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The Durham District School Board acknowledges that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships, both historic and modern, with the territories upon which our school board and schools are located. Today, this area is home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We acknowledge that the Durham region forms a part of the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, the Mississauga peoples, and the treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation. It is on these ancestral and treaty lands that we teach, learn, and live. Are there any declarations of interest? There are no declarations of interest at this time. May I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda as presented? Trustee Oldfield and Trustee Miller. Thank you. All in favor? Motion carries. Before we move to the recommended actions this evening, I'd like to turn the meeting over to our student trustees, Kayla and Neha, for some introductions.
Okay, thank you, and through you, Chair, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our newly elected incoming student trustees for the 2024-25 school year, Shampavi and Nitishan. I'm incredibly excited to work with them over the coming year and know that they will achieve amazing things throughout the course of their term. Thank you. There they are, over there.
Thank you and welcome to you both. Item 5 on the agenda, I'm going to call on Vice Chair Deb Oldfield for the adoption of the resolutions for the May 6th, 2024 Committee of the Whole in camera. Trustee Oldfield.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, I move that the Board of Trustees adopt the resolutions of the May 6, 2024 Committee of the Whole closed session meeting.
Looking for a seconder. Thank you, Trustee Morton. All in favor? Motion carries. Item 5B. We're looking at the approval of the Trustee Professional Development Conference. In our trustee expense policy, section 5.4.5 indicates that a trustee is entitled to reimbursement of up to a total of $1,000 a year for expenses incurred for attendance at professional development sessions or conferences, provided the attendance has been pre-approved by resolution of the board in public session. And that's what we're doing this evening. Jillian, if you could put that motion up on the screen, please. Thank you. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder for that motion. Trustee Brown. Can you read the motion? No, would you read the motion? Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I move that the Board of Trustees approve the use of trustee discretionary funds to cover the cost of DDSB Black Trustee Caucus members to attend the Congress of Black Parliamentarians conference in Ottawa, subject to the Board trustee expense policy and procedure, which a trustee is entitled to reimbursement of up to a total of $1,000 per year.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder. Trustee Miller. Is there any discussion? Trustee Edwards.
I don't have a problem with the motion, other than I'm just wondering, point of information on the policy, if we actually have to identify the members, because it's the individual members that we approve their individual expenses, or not, just out of clarification, because if somebody comes after the fact and says that they want to go, whether they would be covered or not. Just curious.
I think if this resolution as drafted is approved, then if somebody were to attend and submit receipts, they would be covered on the basis of this resolution.
That's agreeable with me. Is there any concern? Thank you. Is there any further discussion? I'm seeing none. So the motion is on the approval of the trustees for the cost of the discretionary funds to cover the DDSB Black Trustee Caucus members attending the Conference of Black Parliamentarians Conference in Ottawa for a reimbursement of up to $1,000 per year. That is, motion has been moved and seconded. I'd like to call the question. All in favor? That motion carries. As there is no further business, I'd like to adjourn this meeting. Thank you.